Revelation chapter 18. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. How much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, and mourning, and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls, and fine linen, and purple, and silk, and scarlet, and all thine wood, and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city, that was clothed in fine linen, and purple, and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones, and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster, and all the company in ships, and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads, and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians, and of pipers and trumpeters, shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman, of whatsoever craft he be, shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of the prophets and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth. This video won't be too long. Revelation chapter 18 begins with an angel coming down, and the angel's light. The angel lights earth with his glory. And yeah, angels emit light. There's many places in the Bible where it symbolically talks about us having light inside of us and letting it shine, and our glorified bodies. I mean, most of the descriptions of heavenly entities do describe like very bright things looking on fire, or like they're in a furnace, very bright. And I wonder, I mean, maybe if that's just because of our eyes, but it still does seem like we're light, beings of light, involving light rather than darkness. And so an angel comes down, lights up. That just reminds me of, this must have been 2017. I don't know. My guess is 2017. Time is almost meaningless at this point. But at some point during my awakening, I think it must have been 2017. Wasn't that when the big eclipse happened? The first of the pair. The other one's coming in a few years. Anyways, there was a stretch of time there where I would see angels in the sky. That's my only guess, my best guess for what it was. And it was like such a common occurrence back then. And it seems recently the sky has kind of quieted down. And all I can say is I've seen things in the sky that I know aren't what they tell us are satellites. I do know that I do believe that they fly drones with just like a light attached to them so that they can be like, oh, look, satellites. Because like that stuff never existed until very recently. If being able to see a satellite go through the sky was a thing, with what they tell us about all the space junk up there, we'd be seeing things fly by constantly. But really, it's a bunch of BS. You can't, when you see like a bright light in the sky, there's just no way that what that is a tiny piece of metal reflecting really, really far away. That's a BS story. I think some of them are angelic. You're seeing an angel. And so I'll just say, basically, the ones that I think are angels, they would just appear all of a sudden. So I'm describing what I saw many, many times in 2017. And since then, too, it just doesn't seem as common. Just being outside at night, there was a point in time where it got like boring seeing this phenomenon. So there must have been something crazy going on up in heaven with angels going left and right around 2017, because it almost got to the point where I could just guarantee, oh, do I want to see an angel tonight? I can just go outside. And now it's definitely not like that anymore. Anyways, you'll just be outside staring up at the sky, and then all of a sudden, a bright light out of nowhere from darkness turns to bright, and then it's like on a mission, going from point A to point B, and then you just can't see it anymore. And that is what most of the time what it looks like. Sometimes they would take on more irregular patterns, but for the most part, what I've noticed from this phenomenon that I can only describe as seeing an angel in the sky, it's like they appear and then they're on a mission from A to point B, and then you just can't see them anymore. And certainly not a hunk of metal really, really far away. And that's my story of looking for angels in the night sky. They're light. They do emit light. So Revelation chapter 18, it's a really interesting chapter. I just don't have a lot to add. So this is continuing from the last one. I think that USA is the main area talked about with Babylon. Maybe if you want to get more specific, NYC, the New York City, maybe is like an epicenter of this, if you want to say that. But I think that what is the United States of America will be dissolved. And that's just a guess. I don't know. So wherever this place is, it's going to be full of devils and foul spirits and cage of birds. The mention of birds is kind of funny to me. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. I mean, I guess cage of birds, maybe it represents something like nobody will be able to fly out of the area. There will be a huge dust storm, because we just read earlier about one of the plagues is darkness over the area. It'll probably be a no-fly zone. That's just a guess. And the use of the term delicacies is just almost like makes me feel gross, you know? So it's like a very perfect term. I think it's just an interesting word choice in this chapter when it talks about the delicacies and how it sounds like brewing up a potion. It sounds like in verse 8, double unto her double according to her works, and the cup which she hath fill to her double. I mean, it reminds me of the toil and trouble double thing, whatever that is. It sounds like referencing some sort of witchcrafty thing. And basically it's like, I think it's just give her back what she put out. I think it's because it's the Whore of Babylon who does that kind of thing. So I think it's appropriate language for that verse. Verse 8, talking about prophecy. Babylon's going to fall in one day. So much stuff is going to happen so quick. And I think the 1 hour, it even like goes further, and it seems like maybe even in 1 hour, most of the stuff is going to happen in 1 hour. Babylon will fall. I think that maybe that's the destruction of NYC will be 1 hour. And the millstone is thrown into the sea. How much programming is out there of a big tsunami taking out NYC? So I'll leave this video with that. I hope you enjoyed. God bless everyone.